Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Round the Nation right here, TYT Nation. It's going to be a very interesting Friday show. I'm in a little bit of a mood, but we're going to have a little bit of fun. We'll talk about Trump. Of course, we got Michael Cohen threatening reporters. That's awesome. I absolutely love that. We got audio of that. We have good news and an update on a story that we did earlier this week about the Trump inauguration protesters. Great update on that. We got the John Bolton story from yesterday. We'll get into details about what's going on in the National Security Council. And then we have a literal pedophile running for office. Not only is he a literal pedophile, but he's also a rapist. I am not kidding. This is not hyperbole. This guy is literally into beating women and having sex with children. I've got the details on that. This is insanity. We're going to talk about later on in the show. So don't miss that story. I swear to God, if you miss it, you're going to absolutely regret it. It's just, wow. Okay, anyway. Man, big show today. In a super awkward mood. Very angry today. So, wonderful. Now, before I get into the stories, please give us a like. Please give us a share. That's gonna help us out greatly. Remember the super chats. Let me tell you what, that helps the show, and we need all the help that we can get. We have, of course, we're dealing with adpocalypse, still the fallout from that. You thought that it was over, it ain't over. And then, of course, algorithm changes that basically bury us and promote CNN and fucking MSNBC above progressive outlets. That, of course, is hurting us massively. So please subscribe to the channel, do the super chats, become a patron. If you want to see our videos, make sure to hit the bell and then go through with the other options and make sure that you check the number where or not the number, sorry, check the box or whatever that tells you show all videos from this creator. So you can do that. That helps us out as well. So you can actually see our content because you subscribe to the channel. I'm assuming you want to see what we're doing. I assume you want to see our videos. If not, you can always go to our site, youtube.com/TYTNation, and see if we have new videos because we put about 4 to 5, sometimes 6 videos up every single day of the week. So Monday through Friday, unless I tell you guys that I'm off. So, all right, anyway. Let's go. Let's have a little fun first. Let's go with Donald Trump and his toddlerness. That's not a word, but let's go with it anyway. Toddlerness. All right. We don't have that up. Here we go. That is almost adorable. Almost. All right. So we've heard a lot of stories about awkward meetings between Donald Trump and regular human beings, right? Regular people. We've also heard a lot of meetings about that were awkward between Trump and members of his staff, his aides and things like that. Now, in some of those meetings, they had to figure out how to keep him interested in very important presidential materials. So they had to try to do that, and they have been massively unsuccessful. They tried to get him to absorb some sort of information. They pepper his name in through the briefings, or they even put it in tweet-sized lengths. So that, oh, hey, it's the size of a tweet. It's about 280 characters, and it has my name peppered all through it. Well, I think I'm going to read this thing because apparently it's about me. Oh, God, he's a fucking idiot. Again, the efforts were ultimately futile because he knows absolutely nothing. But nonetheless, sort of hilarious. Now, of course, there is one such recent meeting that wasn't quite as funny due to the context. But if you look at it without the context, of course, it's hilarious. This recently happened in Texas. Now, Donald Trump went to meet with the families of the recent Santa Fe massacre. And, of course, incredibly disastrous, terrible, horrific situation for the families. So Donald Trump does what most presidents do and goes and meets with the victims. Now, unfortunately, that's where the good part ends. Now, while he was there, he met with Rhonda Hart. Now, Rhonda Hart is a veteran, and she had a daughter that she lost during the shooting. That was 14-year-old Kimberly Vaughn. Now, she was killed at Santa Fe by the shooter. Now, she talked to the Associated Press, and basically she told them about the interaction she had between her and the President of the United States. Now, she said that during that interaction, President Trump apparently used the word wacky to describe the shooter and the trench coat that he wore. Oh, that guy going and shooting the school. What a wacky character. He's so wacky with this trench coat. I mean, what's up with that? Wait, wacky? You're going to say that he's wacky. Look, man, that is not the word that I would ascribe to a school shooter. That makes me think of Animaniacs or something. Oh, look at that guy. He's so wacky. Look at him. He's funny. So wacky. Not a shooter. No, the words that I would think of are, heinous, monstrous, evil. You could go with evil. That's a good word. Wacky. No. Doesn't really work. But again, he's not a very smart person. He's not good with empathy. He's not good with people. Strangely enough. Now, Hart also reportedly told Trump, hey, maybe, and this is, of course, a suggestion on, for example, policy, right? If everyone had access to mental health care, we wouldn't be in this situation. Okay, look, I get it. So, look, if we're going to talk about policy, mental health policy, okay, it's not exactly the solution to the problem, right? But it is an issue. And I think it is an important issue. And I think it's something that we should address. Now, Donald Trump has addressed it in his budget. And that budget actually cuts access for mental health. Well, that's kind of weird. We have an epidemic of school shootings, of mass shootings all over the country. Over 30,000 people die each year from gun-related violence. So some of that can be ascribed maybe a little bit to mental illness, but nonetheless, mental illness is a problem and it should be addressed. So what does Trump do? He cuts funding for mental illness through Medicaid programs. Well, I thought you were going to solve the problem. Oh, turns out I was just kidding. I was just kidding. No, I don't actually care about mental health. We're going to cut your mental health care. Lovely. Now, look, here's the thing. If you do something about mental health, by the way, you're not going to solve the problem. Just like if you do gun reform, you're not going to solve the entire problem. This problem is a little bit more complex than to have one solution be a silver bullet. Now, at the same time, I think doing something about guns would be a big help. Would be an enormous help. So, if we could do something about that, but he's not going to do anything about that because the NRA, every time he talks to the NRA, they scare him into supporting NRA proposals, of which, of course, gets mentioned here. Now, Hart had another suggestion. Let's put veterans in the schools. That's a little bit more controversial. I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, when she put that suggestion out, Donald Trump basically asked, will they be armed? Well, that's the question, right? Are you going to arm veterans and put them into schools? Now, Hart said, well, no, you're not going to arm them, but they're just going to be there to stand watch. Okay. Still not the greatest idea, but look, I don't think that's a solution that we can agree on, but I guess at least she's trying, right? And, like, I'm not going to fault her too much. She just lost her daughter, okay? Now, Trump, however, in response to that, said, well, are we going to give them guns? Are we going to give them guns? Are we going to give them guns? She's like, no, we're not going to give them guns. Well, we got to give guns to somebody, right? So she mentioned that Donald Trump kept mentioning, well, why don't we just arm teachers then? Let's give teachers more guns. In fact, let's keep, like, he kept going back to it every time she would make a suggestion. Let's arm the teachers. Let's arm the teachers. Arm the teachers. But no, that's not a good solution. And she said, basically, quote, it was like talking to a toddler. Well, basically, that is the President of the United States in a nutshell. He is a toddler. Except toddlers get smarter when they get older. Donald Trump only gets dumber. But, unfortunately, that is our man-child president. Sad baby. Okay. Next. Let's go to Jeff Sessions. President Trump is still not happy with Jeff Sessions. In fact, he's still a little bit peeved. In fact, according to a recent New York Times report, Trump continues to beg Jeff Sessions in order to reverse his recusal of the Russia investigation. Oh, that's very interesting. Look, I've mentioned before that Donald Trump is only mad at Jeff Sessions because he won't protect Trump from the Mueller investigation. Now, for some reason, Donald Trump is spooked by that investigation. But wait, I keep hearing from people that there's nothing there. There's no obstruction of justice, no collusion, nothing like that. No, nothing at all. Don't look into that. Weird. Look, if there was nothing there, then, well, why don't you let Mueller continue his investigation? It's not like we didn't have, 7 years of fucking Benghazi? Then you could allow a little bit of time for Mueller to at least wrap up his investigation. And besides, if Mueller comes up with, yeah, Donald Trump, yes, he's a completely unethical person, but he didn't do anything legally wrong, well, then that's that. MSNBC, you're going to have to find something else to talk about. And to be fair, I will also have to find something else to talk about when I do actually cover these stories. So, hey, to be completely 100% fair, right? Anyway, now, the Times also reported that Special Counsel Robert Mueller is investigating Donald Trump's attacks against Jeff Sessions. Well, that's interesting. Now, as well as the confrontation last year where Trump asked Sessions to unrecuse himself as part of the investigation into whether Trump tried to obstruct justice. And in total, it's being reported that he has attempted to do this 4 times. So that's at least trying to obstruct justice 4 times. Among the other things, among telling James, or firing James Comey and then admitting, oh yeah, I fired him because he was looking into this Russian thing. Okay. Well, whatever. Now, look, I don't think there's any doubt at this point in time that he obstructed justice. Again, we have this on tape. We've seen this before. Okay. Now, nonetheless, Donald Trump's going to go on a little bit of a tweet storm about how he totally did not obstruct justice, while indicating that he would, in fact, obstruct justice. On Wednesday morning, Trump wrote a series of tweets quoting Representative Trey Gowdy, who was asked minutes before on CBS This Morning about the New York Times report about Sessions. Now, the extended Gowdy quote, which minimized the idea that Trump had committed obstruction by asking Sessions to reverse his recusal, concluded with Gowdy saying, "There are lots of really good lawyers in the country. He could have picked someone else other than Jeff Sessions." Now, Trump's own words then concluded the tweet with, quote, "And I wish I did." I wish I had chose someone else. No, you wish you had chose someone else more loyal. And that's what it comes down to, right? Look, the reason that he doesn't like Jeff Sessions is because Jeff Sessions has decided to not defend him in the Russia investigation. That, of course, is a very sore point. Now, that's despite the fact that Jeff Sessions is actually doing a lot of what Trump actually wanted him to do. So, for example, I mean, look, Sessions has increased his war on marijuana. He has brought back civil asset forfeiture. He has basically taken hard lines against protests and has supported more hard, strict police officers, right? Or strict policing. Well, that's everything on the right-wing wish list and everything that Donald Trump said he stood for. But he doesn't care about that because, Sessions won't defend me. What a child. Now, here's the thing, right? Now, Sessions, as I said before, is now a key witness for Mueller's team in the investigation. Now, Ryan Koronowski of Think Progress writes that Trump's statement on the matter do not, quote, sound like a sound legal strategy. Oh, really? Well, that seems to be a little bit of an understatement. For one, there's no strategy behind Donald Trump. See, people like to think that he's playing some sort of three-dimensional chess or whatever. No, he's not even playing checkers. He has flipped the board over and took a shit on it. He's not very smart. He's impulsive and emotional. Ironically, that's the very things that a lot of right-wingers, especially in the alt-right, love to ascribe to liberals. Oh, they're just so emotional. Right. No, the thing is that Donald Trump is attacking his staff because he's hurt that they will not be loyal to him. He is so butthurt. While he rewards people who are loyal to him. Well, and actually, no, not even that. Michael Cohen, one of the most loyal people to Donald Trump, and I got a story later on him. Super, super loyal. And Donald Trump don't give no shits. Now, that doesn't mean that he might get pardoned, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But basically, there's no strategy here to these tweets. There's just nothing but rage at Jeff Sessions and his disloyalty. Now, again, that brings me to what Sessions has been doing. He has done everything that policy-wise that the right loves. And look, the Republican Party, that's why he's very popular in the Republican Party. So if you go against Sessions, if you get rid of Sessions, you lose a lot of Republican Party support. Now, is Trump dumb enough to do that? I think maybe Trump has enough brain cells to rub together to realize that, oh, right, maybe it's not such a good idea to alienate every single Republican in the Republican Party. Now, I've mentioned before that I don't think that's going to happen until the base starts to hate him. Because remember, Republicans fear their base. Democrats hate their base. They're like, oh, progressives? Take that. Eat my ass. Progressives, you guys, we're going to do whatever we want. And that, of course, involves taking money from corporations. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Vote for those guys? I'm sorry. The Democratic Party pisses me off. But this is a story about the Republican Party, who actually is afraid of their base. Because their base actually runs, and get this, Democratic heads are going to explode. They run primaries. They actually primary their politicians when their politicians don't do what they want them to do. So keep that in mind, Democrats. Keep that in mind. But so as long as Donald Trump holds 90% popularity among the base, the politicians that are not running, that are continuing to run for re-election will continue to support Donald Trump in public, but are against him in private. And of course, you see that with Jeff Flake, Bob Corker, John McCain. Those are people that are not coming back to the Senate. They are not running again. So they can actually be honest because they're not getting paid. But again, that if that changes, you're going to see an about face on Trump so fast, it'll make your head spin. So, but as far as Trump goes, look, you want to go to war against Sessions, you want to get rid of Sessions, have at it, man. I think it's a stupid move on your part if you want to keep that support. But again, Trump doesn't care about support. All he cares about is who is personally loyal to him. He's a very simple person, very simple needs, And loyalty is the top. It is the most important thing to him. Loyalty to him, not to the party, not to ideals, because Donald Trump has no ideals. Make no mistake. This is who Donald Trump is, and it's very possible that this could lead to his undoing in the future. That's not to say that he won't win re-election. The Democrats put up a loser, and they're very, very likely to do so. If it's not somebody like Bernie Sanders or a progressive, well, then he could win the election even while he's falling apart. So, Democrats, progressives, do not underestimate this person. I know it seems weird, given how he is an idiot, but he won once, he could win again. Okay. We're not done. Moving on. Let's go to the NPR story. Now, NPR was a fascinating exclusive. They write that newly released audio recordings revealed yesterday, Thursday, show that President Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, is now he's in a little bit of trouble, under investigation. Well, it turns out that he made a string of vulgar legal threats to a reporter in order to protect his boss, Donald Trump. Now, the audio was taken from a 2015 interview with Cohen and then Daily Beast reporter Tim Mack, and was published by NPR. Now, NPR is Mack's current employer. Now, this audio, and I'm gonna play it for you here in a minute, basically revealed Cohen making legal threats over a piece he was writing about a 1993 Trump biography. The biography, written by a former Newsweek reporter, Harry Hurt III, entitled The Lost Tycoon, details a sworn deposition from Trump's first wife, Ivana Trump, who alleged during her divorce proceedings that Trump had raped her. Now, of course, later on, she's like, well, I didn't mean that in the criminal sense, or the literal sense, but yeah, it was rape. Well, wait, what is it? What is it if it's not that qualifies to you for you to be calling it rape? I don't quite understand. That's really, really strange. I think rape is rape, and if you're going to say that in a sworn deposition, then you better fucking mean it, right? So, of course, when this reporter decided to follow up with that, he received an angry call from Michael Cohen. Now, according to Mack, the lawyer initially attempted to convince him not to go through with the story by claiming this. Let's listen.
You're talking about Donald Trump. You're talking about the front runner for the GOP presidential candidate, as well as private individual who never raped anybody, and of course understand that by the very definition, you can't rape your spouse.
By that very definition, you are unable to rape your spouse. Really? Well, that's very interesting, because actually, you can. Being married, of course, doesn't mean consent, and anybody should know this. So, already that's a ridiculous argument, right? Now, as far as legally, well, it also was illegal. It's been illegal in New York since 1984. Now, the incident allegedly took place in New York in 1989. So, that is like, yes, you can legally, you can't legally rape your spouse. So, again, Michael Cohen obviously lying there. And then, of course, he talked about, how dare you come after the GOP frontrunner who's going to be the next president of the United States? How dare you? But Matt continued with the story. And so here come the threats. Take a listen.
Mark my words for it. I will make sure that you and I meet one day while we're in the courthouse. And I will take you for every penny you still don't have. And I will come after you, Daily Beast, and everybody else that you possibly know. Do not even think about going to where I know you're planning on going. And that's my warning for the day.
Michael, besides the warning, do you have a substantive comment that I can include in my piece that reflects your views on this?
I have no views because there's no story. So I'm warning you. Tread very lightly, because what I'm going to do to you is going to be disgusting. Do you understand me? Don't think you're going to hide behind your pen, because it's not going to happen.
Look,
And if you have any, I'm more than happy to discuss it with your attorney and with your legal counsel, because you're going to need it.
Damn. Somebody got a little bit testy there. Look, here's the thing. I'm not surprised by this. So, this is normal. This is how, like, New Yorkers talk, right? This is New York. Cohen is Donald Trump's fixer. This is not a surprise. This is what he does. He calls people up. He threatens to do legal action against them, and he swears a lot. I actually found that to be kind of hilarious and not at all threatening. I'm actually used to be yelled at like that, but anyway. So, now there weren't any physical threats in there that I could say, at least not overt physical threats, but there were legal threats, right? He threatens people with legal action. Guess what? That's also what Donald Trump does. So why is this important? Well, for one, it kind of illuminates what the job fixer actually does. You go and you call and you threaten people. You threaten to sue them. To make problems go away for your boss. Okay, fair enough, right? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if there were more recordings like this. In fact, if I were Mueller, I would actually look into that. Because if you're threatening the press, well, when it comes to releasing a story that is potentially negative during an election cycle, well, look, that's something that I would want to look at least if I were Michael Avenatti. That is Stormy Daniels' lawyer. I would also probably want to look at that. Fair enough, right? Now, how this ties into the Mueller investigation is that, look, that's separate than the investigation by the FBI into the Stormy Daniels case. But if they find anything relevant, they could give it to Mueller. And so, look, these tapes, this is why they're trying so hard to flip Michael Cohen. Somebody who's been at Donald Trump's side and who does these calls or who has done these calls on behest of Donald Trump might know a lot. So that's why they're trying to flip him. And look, I talked about loyalty in one of the last segments, right? So loyalty is really, really important to Donald Trump, right? But Donald Trump doesn't return that loyalty. In fact, he's treated Michael Cohen like garbage. You think Michael Cohen, when possibly facing a lot of prison time, you think he's not going to flip on Donald Trump? You think he's going to go, oh, no, I'm loyal. I'm so loyal to this person who treats me like crap, who shows up at my son's bar mitzvah and makes fun of me. Oh, he was begging for me to get there. He was begging. You think he's going to defend Donald Trump? Do you? Do you? I don't think so. All right. Moving on. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a quick, break. So we'll come back. We've got the inauguration update. We have John Bolton. Very, very scary shit. And then we have a literal pedophile running in Virginia. So stay right here. Put in those super chats. I will read them. Give us a like. Give us a share. And we'll be right back. Around the nation. Hey everybody, welcome back. Around the Nation right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Got a couple of super chats. Kimberly Buckley says, Happy Friday. Love watching every day. Well, thank you. I'm super excited that I will be attending a Bernie Sanders rally here in my hometown of Anaheim, California, in support of the Anaheim Service Union members. Well, that is awesome, Kimberly. I remember the only time that I've seen Bernie Sanders speak, and it was in Lansing when he was speaking against the Trump tax cuts. That was awesome. I got to see Nina Turner there as well. That was excellent. So hopefully you have a great time and enjoy yourselves, because definitely seeing Bernie Sanders speak in person is wonderful. It's amazing. All right. Platypi also sends a super chat. I get up at 4:30 a.m. on my day off for you, Jeff. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate that. I know you're in Australia, which apparently, according to some people, doesn't actually exist. That's a very strange, very odd conspiracy theory. I know, right? I read that. I'm like, what the? There are people that actually believe that Australia doesn't actually exist. Weird. But thank you anyway from to a viewer. I definitely want to thank this viewer that comes from a place that doesn't exist, supposedly. So, but thank you. Finally, another super chat I want to read here is from XC. When can anyone be the president that doesn't know the basics of why can anyone be the president that doesn't know the basics of the Constitution? Trump doesn't even understand how the First Amendment works. You know why? It's because the presidency has become a popularity contest. And it really has. Both teams, Democrats and Republicans, they sit there and they vote for their team, right? And they vote to see who's most popular in the team. Not about who's got the best policies. Because, look, if we elected people who had the best policies, then we would have Bernie Sanders. We would have elected Bernie Sanders. Obviously, that's not how it works, which is really, really sad, because I actually would love to live in a world where we voted for people that had the best policies. Instead, it seems to be all about who's on my team, who gets my support, who can raise enough money, and who is, of course, best at getting crowds, and who can be backed by the establishment. So, unfortunately, Trump happens to be an idiot who doesn't know the Constitution because of the fucked up system that we have here in America. So, that's really, really sad. And then finally, Platypi says, yeah, no, Australia is a hoax. It is a hoax. It's not real. Australian truthers. That's what it is. So how can Australia ban guns and have less gun crime if it doesn't exist? Figured it out. I figured it out. Okay, anyway. Thank you for sending those in. I appreciate that. I love reading those. And of course, those also help the show a lot. So thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's move on. So we have an update to a story that I did earlier this week about a court case against 10 individuals that were arrested during the protest of Donald Trump's inauguration. Now, actually, it turns out there was a lot of people, about 200 people, that were arrested during that protest and afterward as well, because they thought that they were involved in that protest, and they were trying to charge them, the government was, with rioting and vandalism, because, look, there were a few windows that were broken. There was, I think, a limousine that was attacked during the protests. So the police, what they did is they just basically went and rounded up 200 people, kettled them in, and arrested them. Now, the update on that is that it turns out there are more people whose case against them have been dismissed. Now, a D.C. judge on Thursday has dismissed felony charges against individuals, 10 of them, by finding that the government had violated the due process rights of the defendants by failing to turn over evidence. Now, this is evidence that they obtained from a right-wing organization, Project Veritas. Now, D.C. Superior Court Chief Judge Robert Morin found that prosecutors with the U.S. Attorney General's Office for the District of Columbia, which is part of the Justice Department, had committed Brady violations by withholding undercover videos that James O'Keefe's Project Veritas had turned over to the government. So those tapes were actually huge when it comes to the case of the government. So they were using these tapes to prove that these members were basically conspiring to riot, to do vandalism during the protests. Now, the thing about that is that these tapes were, of course, selectively edited to make it look like they were planning riots. Now, look, this isn't anything new for Project Veritas. It's been shown before that they, yes, do political hit jobs by taking undercover video and selectively editing it so that the people obviously look guilty. And they can present it and say, aha! Aha! They were going to riot. They were conspiring to riot. These are the people. Arrest them all. Now, look, they also did similar political hit jobs against Acorn, right? Now, that was during the Obama administration. Acorn was basically a group that helped people, African-American people, vote. It's a get-out-the-vote effort and register to vote. Now, that's a very important group. Now, Project Veritas did a hit piece on that, where O'Keefe famously dressed up as a pimp in a pimp outfit. Obviously, that entire thing was ridiculous, and it turned out to be completely untrue, but it was enough for the Obama administration to effectively defund and destroy Acorn. Now, that's not the only right-wing group that has made attacks against left-wing groups. For example, Planned Parenthood, right? Now, this was the Center for Medical Progress. Now, they did their own undercover sting videos that they also deceptively edited to try to take that organization down. And you know what happened to those guys? It turns out they were charged with felonies. Oops. For, of course, recording people without their consent. And not only that, but the videos themselves were proven to have been deceptively edited. When you watch the full unedited version, it basically shows that they didn't say what not Project Veritas, but the Center for Medical Progress purported that they were saying. That they were selling baby parts, which they weren't, and it's ridiculous. So all of that was debunked, but it just shows you that the right has a record of taking video evidence and doctoring it in order to suit their political agenda. Now look, if the facts are on your side, you shouldn't have to deceptively edit a video. Which shows that they do not have the facts on their side. Now, the prosecution, along with O'Keefe's group, obviously is also not trustworthy because they knew about this. They knew about the evidence. They knew about the full uncut videos. And they decided, oops, nope, not going to do it. In the segment I did previous to this one, I laid that out. And so because of that, Judge Morin actually made a pretty strong ruling on this case. They said that the charges should be dismissed with prejudice. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that the case is so pretty much over with, right, that the government cannot bring charges again. Now, the government said, well, okay, look, we didn't release the evidence. So what? Go ahead and dismiss the case without prejudice so that we can bring the charges against these guys again. Judge Morin said, not going to happen. We're not going to dismiss this case without prejudice. In fact, we're going to do it with prejudice so that you can never bring charges, these same charges, against these individuals. That's how bad the prosecution fucked up, and they did so by withholding exculpatory evidence. Now, Morin said, quote, in his ruling, I do think it's a serious violation, adding that it was not explainable to the court that the government had misled the court or basically lied to the court about the evidence. Your office represented that was the only video turned over, he said, referring to an undercover video of a planning meeting that hadn't been disclosed in its entirety. In fact, there were dozens of videos in the drive that Project Veritas turned over to the government, defense attorney said. At one point, the government prosecutor described the right-wing Project Veritas as a, quote, concerned citizens group. So, look, that's exactly the kind of perspective you would get from the Trump Justice Department. Oh, no, this Project Veritas, who has misled people and doctored videos before, they're just a concerned citizens group. And don't at all have a history of making hit pieces for political purposes. The result, these 10 people, they're free to go. Now, this adds to the nearly 150 people or so of the almost 200 in which the government had arrested that have had their charges dropped from lack of evidence. And look, some of these people were, I should say the majority of these people were arrested for simply being there and wearing black and shouting anti-capitalist slogans. I thought we had free speech in America, right? You can chant whatever slogan you want. In some cases, too, they arrested people that weren't actually there at all. But they went to their houses, they found out who they were, and arrested them anyway. What did we do? We didn't do anything. We weren't even at the protest. What are you talking about? Yeah, we got you on video. That are planning these protests. But I didn't actually show up. Doesn't matter. Lock them away. Throw away the key. Well, good thing, Judge Morin, we actually have a judicial system that kind of works to step in and say, actually, no, that's not going to happen. So, look, this is a good ruling. This is a great ruling, actually. It's fantastic for the people who were arrested wrongfully. Now, look, I do hope that they actually find the people who did smash in those windows, who did that property destruction and vandalism. If there's anybody on the left that actually did that, then that's detrimental to the cause. However, between you and me, and I have no proof of this, I think it's possible that these were agitators, right? Look, is it unheard of for counter movements to have government paid agitators inside of protests in order to cause trouble? Well, look at Occupy Wall Street. Look at what happened with Standing Rock. That does happen. You got to look at the long history of protests, of left-wing protests, right? They get infiltrated, sometimes by government forces or right-wing forces, or basically sometimes those are the same thing, right? So, look, I'm just saying, even though I don't know if that's the case in this case, that is something to watch out for. And I'm just saying that I wouldn't be surprised if the people who end up actually having done that violence and vandalism or smashed those windows, wouldn't be surprised if they ended up being not what they appear to be. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So John Bolton is Donald Trump's national security advisor, right? Now, he's also a neocon and a warmonger who despises Muslims and wants a war with Iran, another disastrous war in the Middle East. Now, that's exactly what we want here in America. That's exactly what we clamored for when or I should say the American people, when a lot of people voted for Donald Trump, who said, oh, the wars in the Middle East are an absolute disaster. I'm not going to do any of those. Oops. Well, so anyway, John Bolton gets chosen by Donald Trump to be national security advisor, and part of that job means building up a team in which you could put forward your agenda. Now, as I said, the agenda before for John Bolton is more war. Now, That is reflected in Bolton's newest pick for the NSC's executive secretary and chief of staff. So the person that he has chosen for this position is a man named Fred Fleets. Now, Fred Fleets happens to be a critic of the Iran nuclear deal, which has been ripped up, and was also Bolton's former chief of staff while an undersecretary of state in the George W. Bush administration. So this guy is a former Bolton aide. They worked together in the administration, in the Bush administration. What happened during the Bush administration? Oh, right, we went to war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Lovely. So you can kind of see the impact that this little pairing seemed to have had on the Bush administration. Gee, I wonder if it's going to have an impact in the Trump administration. Well, let's look into it, right? Now, Fleets happens to be an incredibly outspoken opponent of Muslims. Not Muslim fundamentalists, not Muslim extremists, not Muslim terrorists, which we are all outspoken against terrorists. But let me show you how outspoken he is against all Muslims. The Washington Post explains. Fleets, a former CIA analyst and occasional guest on Fox News, is the author of Obama Bomb, a dangerous and growing national security fraud, and The Coming North Korea Nuclear Nightmare, What Trump Must Do to Reverse Obama's Strategic Patience. Nothing scary about those book titles. They continue. Fleets has promoted the myth of European no-go zones, places the CSP, which is the organization that he actually works for, which is a very virulently anti-Muslim organization with ties to white nationalists and neo-Nazis. He used this widely debunked survey by that organization that suggested a quarter of all Muslims support violence against all Americans. Now, the Washington Post also notes that during his campaign, Trump cited the same survey in calling for a ban on Muslims entering the United States. That is the Muslim ban. Okay. So, oh goody. We have somebody peddling anti-Muslim conspiracies as part of the National Security Council. There's no way this is going to go badly. Well, but wait. It's going to get worse. Fleets also was promoted the idea of, quote, a clash of civilizations between Islam and the United States, and had co-authored a 2015 CSP report titled, quote, A Plan for Victory Over the Global Jihad Movement, that claimed that a majority of Muslims and Islamic authorities promote or at least support jihad and Sharia supremacism. Now, the report said, quote, unfortunately, no significant elements from within Islam have thus far presented themselves as likely allies in the death struggle we confront with our mutual enemies. Death struggle. I don't want any part of a death struggle. I am anti-death struggle. Now, this guy thinks that a majority of the billion Muslims in the world are out here to destroy the United States, to support Sharia law, and that we are in a clash of civilizations with those people. This guy is certifiable. He's nuts. Now, are there violent fundamentalist Muslims? Of course there are. And are there a lot of them? Well, I would say, look, you take 1.1% of a billion people, and yeah, that turns out to be a lot of people, right? Who are fundamentalists, who believe in Sharia law, right? But to say that all of them, or nearly all of the billion Muslims in the world, that there is no significant elements within Islam that can be allies against fundamentalism, that is ridiculous. Way to ignore moderate Muslims who don't believe in Sharia law. Those should be our allies, and we should be working together with those countries. Now, that does not include Saudi Arabia, which is fundamentalist Muslim. Obviously, working with Iran, they are fundamentalist Muslim. But if there's a moderate Muslim country, well then yes, we would want to be allies with them. right? And help them out and continue on them on a course towards secularism or to continue secularism. But unfortunately, that happens to not be good for war. In fact, the United States wants these countries. Some people in the government, people like Bolton, want these governments to be fundamentalist so that we can go to war with them over oil. And that's what, of course, this is about. War. Now, Fleets argues that we should make them all our enemy. The 1 billion Muslims in the world, they're all our enemy. That's not good. Now, speaking of that, Fleets in the CSP have claimed that major American Muslims organizations and mosques are secretly working to advance a jihadist agenda. Well, like, they believe that the jihad is happening in middle of Kansas. This is crazy stuff. And actually, they believe that it's happening in the middle of Michigan. Now, they say that such groups should not be trusted when they claim to eschew violence and that they should be, quote, neutralized as political forces. So, hey, man, let's get rid of the First Amendment, the freedom of religion, and neutralize what are American citizens because they're Muslims and therefore they can't be trusted. We know they're working on secret jihad. This is literally unconstitutional. Not only that, but he recently blamed a terrorist attack in London on British Muslims' quote, failure to assimilate. And he further brings it towards the United States as well. He said there are communities where British Muslims are deliberately not assimilating, are being taught to hate British society, and this is incubating radicalism. No, you know what incubates radicalism? When you bomb their countries. He said there's actually a parallel system of Sharia law courts in the UK that operate. Now, those are extraordinary claims, right? Now, if you're saying that there is a system that is set up that is aside from the legal system in the United Kingdom, strictly for Sharia law, well, then you would want to have proof, right? Oh, right, there's no proof. No-go zones, they've been debunked as an enormous lie. Billions of times, right? Now, however, that doesn't stop them from saying the same thing about American Muslim communities. For example, he says, quote, I'm not concerned about Amish or Jewish communities, but I will tell you that there are enclaves of Muslim communities in Michigan and Minnesota that concern me. They concern you. Well, why is that? Well, he points to Minnesota, right? Now, in Minnesota, there is a rising rate of measles because the community, he said, has not assimilated into the rest of the community and is not vaccinating their children. Now, look, he said, quote, that is concerning, right? I mean, I believe in vaccines. I believe in the science. So what happened? There was an outbreak in Minneapolis because anti-vaccine activists convinced members of the Somali immigrant community that vaccines cause autism. So that's the situation, right? The situation in Minnesota is that these idiot anti-vaxxers, which can be both left-wing or right-wing, stupid doesn't know any bounds. There are stupid on both sides. That go in and say, oh, vaccines, autism, Wakefield, the Wakefield study. Wait, the Wakefield study was debunked. Debunked completely. And yet they continue to say, oh, no, vaccines, autism, vaccines. Got to be careful. Vaccines, autism. Hey, the Somali community, don't get your kids vaccinated. And then later on, right-wingers go and say, oh, look at the Somalis. They're not assimilating by using vaccines. Insanity. It's not the anti-vaxxers that are the problem. No, it's the Muslims. It's the Muslims. No, you know what? You know what the real enemy in this situation is? It's disinformation. That's the real problem. People not believing in facts and logic, just like our boy Fleets, right? Totally ironic. But you know, look, the real reason that he's after the Muslims, he's a bigot and he's a demagogue. And that's what he wants to do. And of course, number two, he wants war. He is a neocon just like John Bolton. You don't think he wants to invade Iran? He wants to invade Iran. He said it. He said that there is a clash of civilizations between the United States and all Muslims. All of them. I told you before, John Bolton is incredibly dangerous because now he has power, and now he can fill our national security apparatus with horrific war hawks just like himself. And you know what that means? Disaster. That's what that means. Okay. Oh, God damn it. I'm about out of time. But really want to get this story done, so. Alright, let's do it. Okay. There is a literal pedophile running for office in Virginia. This is not hyperbole. This is reality. And it is insane. Now, let me go to an article here in HuffPost. Now, the person pictured is Nathan Larson. Now, he's a 37-year-old accountant from Charlottesville. Of course, that is the site of the alt-right protests. And he is running for Congress as an independent. Oh, well, at least at this time, the pedophile is not a Republican. Roy Moore. Now, here are some of the details, right? And these are details, by the way, that he voluntarily gave during an interview with HuffPost. In fact, he confirmed that he created 2 now-defunct websites that served as gathering places for pedophiles, misogynists, and people that claim to be part of the incel community, that is involuntary celibate. Now, HuffPost contacted Larson after confirming that his campaign website shared an IP address with some of these forums. Among others, his sites were terminated now by their domain host on Tuesday. Now, here's what he said to HuffPost. He said, quote, "A lot of people are tired of political correctness and being constrained by it. People prefer when there's an outsider who doesn't have anything to lose and is willing to say what's on a lot of people's minds." Oh, well, that sounds curious. That actually sounds a lot like some of the more extreme right-wing candidates. It also sounds a lot like Donald Trump. Oh, political correctness. No. We need an outsider with different ideas who says what's on people's minds. Well, that's funny because what's on Mr. Nathan Larson's mind turns out to be little children. Asked whether he's a pedophile or just writes about pedophilia, he said, quote, "It's a mix of both. When people go over the top, there's a grain of truth to what they say." Really? So he says, and basically he admits that he is right, that he wrote in these articles or blog posts on these different sites that he created, that he writes about pedophilia. He writes about having sex with children. Well, when we go over the top, which I do, there's a grain of truth to it. Interesting. Now, asked whether there was a grain of truth in this essay about father-daughter incest and another about raping his ex-wife repeatedly, he said, quote, "Yes," and added that plenty of women have rape fantasies. Oh, fascinating. But wait here. Okay, look, fantasies are fantasies, sure, right? But if you actually do it, that is illegal, right? And if you're actually saying and admitting that, no, I actually did repeatedly rape my ex-wife, which, yes, he does admit, then you're a criminal and a rapist, and you're a terrible person, not to mention the actual father-daughter incest that he wrote about. This is gross. Look, this guy, there is something wrong with him. Massively. And it shows in his campaign manifesto. Now, let me just add, by the way, that if you have something called a manifesto, there is a good chance Not in every case, of course, but there's a good chance that you're insane. Anyway, according to Larson's campaign manifesto, his platform as a quasi-neo-reactionary libertarian candidate includes protecting gun ownership, establishing free trade, and protecting, quote, benevolent white supremacy. Well, that escalated quickly. But wait, we're not done. He also wants to legalize incestuous marriage and child porn. What in the hell? Now, not only that, if that's not bad enough, and it should be, immediately, he also heaped praise on Nazis. So he's also a neo-Nazi. He wrote that Adolf Hitler was, quote, a white supremacist hero. Wow. He also urged Congress to eliminate the Violence Against Women Act, adding that, quote, we need to switch to a system that classifies women as property, initially of their fathers and later of their husbands. He also showed sympathy for men who identify as incels or involuntary celibates, suggesting that it is unfair that they are forced to pay taxes for schools, welfare, and other support for other men's children. Oh, you poor incels, you have the short end of the stick. I'm going to stick up for you and your rights. Oh. Now there's more, right? This is a gigantic collection of fucking awful mashed together. But more, right? Now, he used a pseudonym. I'm not going to try to say that. Lou Costis and Lysander. Using those pseudonyms, Larson frequently participated in conversations on his own message boards that he confirmed to HuffPost. Now, while posting as Lysander on his now defunct website, he wrote numerous posts endorsing child rape and other forms of sexual abuse. Now, one of them, he wrote back in October, quote, why doesn't every pedo just focus on making money so they can get a pedo wife and then either impregnate her with some fuck toys or adopt some fuck toys? That would accommodate both those who are and aren't into incest, and of course, the adoption process lets you pick a boy or a girl. What a monster. He's an incredibly sick person. There is no doubt that he is disgusting. I have never seen a more wretched human being. There's more. Larson, unfortunately, has a 3-year-old daughter. Now, the good thing is that the daughter has ended up living with relatives. So fortunately for her, he cannot touch her because he has shown a willingness to do such a thing. Now, his ex-wife had first gotten custody of her, and he relinquished all parental rights, which is a good thing, during a custody battle with that ex-wife. However, she committed suicide not long after, in 2015. He has since remarried. Now, for one, who the hell would marry this person? I have no idea. But it kind of makes you think, why did this woman commit suicide? Oh, I think it's very obvious. It could be the marital rape, and it could be the fact that she married a pedophile. An admitted pedophile. An enormously disgusting person. There are no strong enough words for how much I despise this human garbage. Now, on another forum, and this gets back to why this woman may have committed suicide. He identified as a hemophilic rapist, noting that he is not a typical incel because he had sex by raping his ex-wife. Now, HuffPost did not view any posts explicitly stating that he is engaged in sexual activity with minors. This is why he is not arrested, right? This is why he's not rotting in prison right now. Even though he has expressed a desire to have sex with, quote, from the article, both infants and children, including his own daughter. Now, in one essay, he also told other members and has tried to give them advice on what to do when he's in relationships. He said, quote, "Don't forget, feminism is the problem and rape is the solution." Also, he has advocated for father-daughter marriage, killing women and raping virgins. So, look, man, wow. This is disturbing, disgusting, and look, he's right out in the open with all this stuff. It's brazen. He doesn't deny writing this. He celebrates it. He says, yeah, that's what I'm running on. That's who, he's like, that's who I am. I'm all these things. That's my position. I haven't actually done it, but if I had my way, I would legalize it so that I can do it. He also says, look, this whole thing, how dare you take down my websites? And that's the other thing. He says, I'm more concerned that you took down my websites because that's free speech. How dare you go after my free speech? These are my positions. These are the things that I want to do. These are the things I've done with my marital rape, and these are the things I'd love to do. Look, man, there are monsters in this world, and they walk among us. And in some cases, they actually run for office. Now, look, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say something a little controversial, but I don't remember seeing these kinds of people run before 2016. Now, look, you get hideous Republicans that do hideous things before, of course, but I think the level of depravity that we have seen since 2016 with people like Roy Moore, and then you have other literal Nazis that have run for office since then in what has been called the Trump effect. I think we've literally hit bottom. I don't see that you could ever have anyone worse than this candidate, worse than this human being, because this is literally the biggest, worst piece of garbage I have ever seen. If he gets even 1% of the vote, I'm going to, look, I don't know what I'm going to do. But there are sadly people in this world that think like this guy. And they are monstrous. They walk among us, man. Monsters. Real life monsters. Whoa. I am so sorry that I don't leave you on a good note here with this weekend, but boy, I had to share that story because, as I said, they are here. They're these people. Fuck. All right. Anyway. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for watching Round the Nation. I want to read a couple of super chats that I got here during that segment. Rexall asks, have you played the new Final Fantasy XIV patch, and why is Suyu so damn weird? I have not gotten to that point. Right now, I'm still working on bringing one of my characters to 70. So, you know, still working on it, still getting there. I mean, like 66, 67, I think. Need to get up to 70, so I'm close. So no, I haven't played that yet, but I look forward to it. It looks pretty good. Finally, Tira adds, Jeff, both of my kids have been hurt by vaccinations. Vaccines are not perfect. I believe parents have a choice, but it would never discourage anyone. I'm actually going to disagree with that. And I know you're a parent. I'm not a parent. So, yes, you can go and use that against me and say that. But I just, Are vaccines perfect? No, vaccines do cause, in some cases, a bad reaction. That has been shown. Now, is it rare? Absolutely. But yes, people do get a bad reaction to some of the things in vaccines. It does happen. Now, of course, they've removed a lot of the mercury. There's actually very, very small amounts, and actually, I think either they removed it completely or had it to such a very small impact that you actually get more exposed to more of it from like eating a piece of fish. But look, to get to the overall point, I understand that in every case, and not in every case that they're perfect, but I still think that for the people who can give their kids vaccinations, they should be required to. So I know, but I think that science has proven herd immunity is really important. So when you have everybody that can take those vaccinations and not get harmed by them, they protect the people who can't. The people who do have adverse reactions to those vaccines. That's why I think it's really important to get everyone who can get vaccines to be vaccinated. So that's just me. We're going to have a little bit of a disagreement on that. That's okay. We can do that. We can disagree and still have a good discussion. But anyway, I want to thank you for all that, for the super chats. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Love you guys. We'll see you on Monday. We'll be back on the show on Monday. So tune in, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, like and share the stream. And if you want to support the show, please consider becoming a patron. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you tomorrow. Or, I'm sorry, we'll see you on Monday. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you later. Oh, yeah. Also, we might end up doing a Saturday stream. just for fun. But it won't be like a news stream. It'd be more like just a bullshit stream. So having fun, having some random conversations, and all that stuff. So also, I might do I have a Twitch account. So if you want to watch me play some video games, I might also do that this weekend. So check out my Twitch, or my Twitch. I'll tweet it out. So follow me at Jeff's Politics, and you'll get all the information from that. So, all right. Now I'm out of here. We'll see you guys later.